Hi, my name is Janelle Lane. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and I decided to do this video because I've had a lot of interesting conversations recently about minority mental health and mental health in minority populations. My husband and I have a company called Courageous Healing, which specializes in minority mental health. And many of the places in which I've worked in the past, I've been the only or one of very few minority therapists, and therefore have gotten lots of questions and kind of become a go-to resource for many of my friends, my white therapist friends, who just sometimes have honest and transparent questions and need an answer in a safe place to ask those questions. And so today I just decided that it was time to talk about one of them that has been becoming more frequent publicly. So the question that I often get is, how do we decrease the stigma about mental health and seeking mental health services and supports for minority populations? And my answer would be, we don't. We don't focus on that. My answer would be, instead, we focus on, as a profession, readying ourselves for the individuals that we want to serve and treat. And so a lot of times we focus our energy and effort on getting the population to come through the doors. But the issue is, if we're so focused on getting people of minority backgrounds through the doors, we're not readying the space to provide the services that that population needs. To assume that we're ready to treat the populations that we're inviting is arrogant in a lot of ways, because honestly, as a profession, we're not. And it hasn't always been handled well, which is why there's stigma in the first place. There's a lot of distrust for people who show up at the door with a clipboard, particularly white people who show up at the door with a clipboard, and rightfully so. And so, what we have to do instead is prepare ourselves and ready ourselves to provide those treatments in ways that feel authentic and safe for people, and then the population will come. If we ready the spaces and if we prepare ourselves for the change we desire to see, the population will come. And they'll come because they'll feel safe and valued and loved and cared for, and because they'll get healing. And they will then speak to their friends and people that they love about the healing, just like anybody would. And so instead of focusing on decreasing the stigma and getting people through the doors and fixing the population, let's focus on fixing us. Let's model the change that we want to see. Let's focus on being proactive and putting preventative things in place instead of responsiveness. Let's model the change. Let's be willing to change the way that we do things, the way that we diagnose. Let's be willing to provide access over barriers and issues. Let's give people of color who are interested in entering the field, let's give them a real shot at entering the field. Let's make sure standardized testing, is not a barrier in creating barriers for populations. Let's make sure cost for schooling isn't a barrier. Let's make sure white therapists are getting training on how to really address some of these issues, not textbook training. Help therapists know what to do with clients who held their son while their son was shot, after their son was shot and died in their arms. Let's help therapists know what to do when someone comes in with racial trauma or a police action shooting. Are we equipping white therapists with how to really handle these issues? Is there a safe place they can go to get supervision on how to handle these issues? Have the supervisors been appropriately culturally trained? Are they comfortable talking about this stuff? Can therapists admit when they don't know what to do because there's no schooling or training or techniques that are well versed in addressing these issues? So I think instead of focusing on decreasing the stigma, I think we focus on changing the provision of services and access to services that meet needs in ways that are culturally centered instead of culturally tolerant. And then I think with that, you'll see stigmas decrease. I hope that this has been at least thought-provoking, and I hope that we keep these very needed and necessary conversations going. Thank you for taking the time to listen. Have a great day.